Hi, I'm Emily Keller, and this is my friend Rikki. She's the founder of Ikki, Small But Brave, which is a baby clothes line based here in Shanghai. Where are you from? Where did you grow up? And what's your background in fashion or in textiles?
I come from South Africa. Did you know that?
I knew that.
Oh, okay. So I come from South Africa and I was born in Durban, but my mom is German. So I grew up speaking German to my mom and English to my dad. So I went to school until I was 18 in South Africa, and then I moved to Germany and did the German Abitur, which is the equivalent of the last year of schooling in Germany, because we only have 12 years of schooling in South Africa. So in order to study in Germany, I had to do that extra year, which I did in Hamburg. Yeah, and then I studied textile engineering in Germany for 5 years.
Okay, wow.
But prior to deciding to study that, I actually spent some time in Italy, in Prato, which is near Florence, because I come from, both my parents are textile engineers, so I didn't want to do that just because they were doing that. Actually, I hated the idea of doing what my parents did. So then my dad said to me, don't do anything for me. If you want to see if it's something that you really like, then why don't you go to Prato? We have some family friends there that I could live with. And then I had the experience to visit textile mills and to see the whole process, to see if it was really something that I enjoyed. And then after that experience, I decided that I wanted to go into textiles, and then decided to study textile engineering rather than design, because it would just give me a broader scope of things that I could do. And I'm not really a designer. I prefer the technical part of it. So yeah, so that's what I did.
Did you focus on wool when you studied textiles, or at that time not really?
Everything. So it's so it's basically mechanical engineering with specialization in textiles. So it's very much the machinery, the process, and then we also look into all the different fibers. So from cotton, polyester, natural, synthetic.
Kind of like you learn like how they're all processed.
How they're processed. Yeah, the mechanical process for the different types of fabric constructions, but also in the different areas. So not just apparel. So geotextiles, medical textiles.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's textiles is just what I happen to apparel is just what I happen to get into.
Right.
But we did everything and all fibers. So
yeah.
So I specialized in textile technology. So you could do textile management, which would have been more not getting into the technical side of things. But until the end, I chose the pure engineering route, which was very technical.
I wish we had that, because I did fashion design major, and probably barely scratched the surface of learning that kind of stuff. You know?
I think it really, really helps. And later, I realized that about designers, actually, because when I was working in Italy in a spinning mill, they used to come to Pitti Filati, and come and select the yarn colors. And then they would have these ideas of what they wanted to do, which was all wonderful, but not executional in the real practical sense. So we always used to say, the designers should get more technical. But maybe they thought that we should be more, I don't know, it goes both ways, right? Maybe they thought
why don't you guys know how to design, right?
Exactly. So yeah.
I always felt that way. I always kind of, even though I did the design major, I kind of felt more comfortable with the technical side of like knitwear, because I specialized in knitwear. I was always more comfortable with like the machines and knowing how they worked. I was really surprised when I got into the fashion design industry, like working, how many like knitwear designers don't know anything about the machines, the capabilities, the limitations. Yeah. I was really amazed that they just sketch things. Yeah. Designers will sketch things and they'll hand it over to the factory, and the factory will be like, well, we can't do this. And they won't know why, they won't understand, and if I look at it, I'm like, oh, it's because this doesn't make sense. They can't do this, the machine can't do this, you know? And I just thought that was really interesting. Let's see. So after college, then what did you do? So that was you went to college in Germany, right?
So college. Is that
what you call it? Is
I don't know. Is it in the States? College is university, right?
University. Yeah.
So actually, the way the system is set up in Germany is you have to do 1 year theory, 6-month prac, 1 year theory, 6-month prac, 1 year theory, and then you write your thesis. So actually, during my studies, after my first year, I spent 6 months in Italy in a factory, Marzotto, which is Marzotto, right? I think we spoke about that. Anyway, it's in a very small factory. It was the mother company of Hugo Boss at one stage. And now they are no longer affiliated. But it's a vertical mill in a very small town called Valdagno, near Vicenza. And basically I worked there for 5 months through every department as a shift worker.
Whoa.
So I worked in all the different departments in weaving, spinning, dyeing, but I had an overall on, a helmet, protection, boots, and I did all the work myself, and that I have to say, even after, that was in the 3rd semester, and even after I had finished my whole 5-year degree, those 6 months were still the 6 months I learned the most.
Really?
And because I had really worked on a spinning machine,
hands-on.
attached the ends, and had my own weaving loom. When the weft broke, I had to know how to change the gear to get it back running again. And then I worked in the dyeing department, and and it was great. And it was also a great way to learn the language because no one could speak English and no one could speak German. So I had to learn Italian. And doing something while you're learning a language is so much easier because
you have visuals.
You have visuals, exactly that. So that was the 3rd semester. Then I went back for another year, theory, to Germany, and then I did 6 months in England, in the north of England, between Yorkshire and Lancashire. Those two counties are known for wool and cotton.
Okay.
So this little town was exactly on the border, and I worked there in Walsden Printing. So that was a company that did printing, rotary printing for interior textiles. So I did a practical there, and then went back to university for a year, and then I did my thesis in Australia and that's where I went specifically into wool. Did a 6-month thesis time in CSIRO, which is a research institute in Melbourne, Australia. Actually Geelong, near Melbourne. And and there I researched on, that was actually official research that would then later be inserted into other papers. We had to do some official sort of thesis with our own research behind it, working together with the team there at CSIRO. And there I worked on, very technical and boring, I think, for everyone, but it was the effect of shrink proofing on differently crimped wools. So, it's very technical.
I think that's interesting, but I know a lot about knitwear and stuff too. Okay.
So, wool can have a high crimp or a low crimp.
Yes.
And so I processed this wool and saw how different types of shrink proofing, which basically makes the wool to not felt.
Not felt, right.
So how the different waviness or crimp of the wool would be affect the effectiveness of the shrink proofing. That's how I finished my degree with my final thesis on
and your
that.
Thesis, so you traveled a lot during your school. That's really cool. And
that's because the I think there was a time when in Germany they thought all these graduates from university were not really practical in converting the theoretical knowledge that they'd learned at university into the workplace. And I already went to where I studied textile engineering, it's translated into university in English, so it is called Reutlingen University, but it's already a more practical based university because of the type of content that it is, right? But I think other universities, the pure theoretical universities, also have sort of transformed their way of educating, if you like, because they realize that once you come out of university, if you haven't had any practical experience, then there's very little value in that.
Yeah, it's hard to get a job. Experience, or
and also it's changed. Like the degrees have changed. Even if